Critical Beard podcast.
Episode 1.
It's episode 1, and this is the official rebooted song. It goes, Critical Beard podcast, Critical Beard podcast, critical, cynical, clinical, physical, critical, cynical, physical,
That's beautiful.
Thank you. I just wrote that 2 minutes ago.
Oh, I know you did. I know you're not even lying or gloating. That's just who you are.
So, usually we do, I would like to start next week back to our segment, what you playing.
Oh boy.
Right now, we all know what we
know what we've been playing. You ain't playing. I mean, you playing, but
I'm gonna bring one more idea to the table, and this one's called "What You Wearing." Okay.
Oh dang. Okay.
Oh, I didn't give you a heads up, but I'm wearing the Earthbound Star Wars Splitsy. Look at that guy.
That's great.
That's a great shirt.
That's great.
The old wifey gave it to me, and she knows what daddy likes.
Weird.
Oh, I'm not daddy. She just knows what he likes.
Well, I'm wearing a shirt with trees on it, and that's a book. It's a book.
That's very clever. It's like a pop-up book.
It's like a pop-up book, even.
I loved those when I was a little kitty. And walking through the paper bear. Remember the walk through the paper bears?
Oh, man, paper bear.
Oh.
It's closed, isn't it? Yeah, rest in peace.
Yeah.
If it wasn't closed before, it's definitely closed now, thanks to this quarantine. Date it.
Damn.
We just dated this review. Quarantine. Boom.
Quarantine episode 1.
So we're gonna do a non-spoiler review first.
Mm-hmm. So to be clear, we're going to be reviewing Final Fantasy VII Remake in its entirety. The first half of this review, which will split skis. So you don't have to worry about it if you're watching this version. This is spoiler free. This is just general impressions.
Yeah. This is going to be talking about graphics, gameplay, sound, story without any spoilers. Dang.
That's dope, right?
That's Samus's face.
It's my notebook, man. It's my notes. You can't fit a lot of notes on Samus's face, however.
Turns out you can't put a lot of notes on her face.
I think that's like an old saying.
They should have learned that. They probably learned that from Other M. Let's be honest.
You just can't put a lot of notes.
They put way too many notes on her face in that game. It's like, okay, I don't need to know this much about.
Yeah, the gameplay was actually fine in that game. It was just the characterization. It was like
it's like they didn't even know what the heck they were. Okay, anyway, we're getting.
Heyo. So, Final Fantasy VII Remake and Selmo, the meatball.
I guess we should talk about first of all preconceptions, because I know that's kind of like everyone who hasn't played it, they're probably going to be going, is this an actual game? Is this a full gaming experience, or is it some telltale 4-hour experience that you're going to have to buy the next one? You know what I mean? Because people legitimately have those worries. They think it's just this little cash in. I'm happy to report, no.
If they never made another one of these, like Square, they something happened and they just whatever, this would still probably be
it somehow stands on its own
as just it's one really good Final Fantasy game.
Yeah, it somehow stands on its own while being able to open the doors for new possibilities. But we'll talk about all that stuff later.
Yeah,
but it is a full game. I beat it in about 36 hours. How long did it take you?
Like 44. I saw people saying they beat it in like 29 hours. It's like, no, you did. There's no way.
They didn't do any odd.
You ran straight through that game.
Yeah, they didn't do any side quest.
How did you spend less time than me? Because I actually didn't finish
I did all the
Chocobo side quest.
Oh, really? You should have, because when you beat it, never mind. We'll talk about it in spoilers. But yes, full experience. It's set up to be part of it's kind of like it's a saga. So it's like part one of a saga.
Yeah, I would look at it more as Mass Effect 1, you know, like how that is all one story, all three games. But the game stands there. Each game stands alone.
It stands alone. Yeah, that's very good.
They're just breaking this apart like you know, any sort of trilogy. It just, if you played the original, obviously you get all the story beats.
You get so many little awesomeness.
The original game was only like 30 hours or so. It was just the grind. Yeah. It was the side quest and the grinding. Obviously, you could play that game forever. Yeah. But like the actual, you know, like if you're just going straight through to fight Sephiroth.
Yeah, it's about 40. Yeah, about 45 hours, I'd say.
So this game is, I mean, roughly the same length.
It's about the same size, like gameplay input wise, as like the entire original game, which is what I expected and what I wanted and what I got. At least in that aspect, that's exactly what I got. I wanted a full game experience. There's a train. Can you hear that train?
I can't hear it. I wish I could. Okay, I would love to hear a train right now. I'd love to hear a good train. I'd kill for a good train. You know what I'm saying?
It's a family show, okay?
Oh, sorry. Right back to my notes.
I got notes too. We love our notes. I guess we should just. You know me. I like to split things up. So we're gonna do ACG style. Start with graphics.
Yeah, graphics are first.
Graphics are first. I'm not as good as him with coming up with great little insults and funny phrases and curse words. So good.
When he's just like he's like, and it looks just like cottage cheese out of a dog's asshole. Blah 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 blah. You're like, what did he just say?
If anyone who is watching this has not subscribed to ACG, you probably should. He's
formerly known as the Angry Centaur Gamer.
Angry Centaur Gaming.
Sometimes I actually don't watch his reviews because they're so thorough, and I just want something smaller, and I don't have time.
Yeah, it's true. Some of them are like 20, 30 minutes long, like really in-depth, technical-wise.
So
graphics presentation, amazing. Look,
a mixed bag on my end.
It is. I wouldn't call it a mixed bag. It's by far a net positive. There are issues, but dude, when this game looks good, it looks good.
Right. When this looks good, it is up there with Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah.
It's the best. You know, it's up there with Death Stranding. It's one of the best looking video games ever made.
Yeah.
When it looks good. However, with games like Death Stranding and Red Dead Redemption 2, they didn't have any caveats. They were just beautiful throughout the whole damn game. And these were also kind of open. I mean, you know, these were open world games where you were like going, you know, there was tons of places to explore. That's why I think the shortcomings graphically on this one are strange, because this game is largely
strange.
The first thing I noticed was
they don't take away from anything, but they are jarring.
The first thing I noticed was I actually do think they took a little bit away from the game, not a lot, but just a little bit, because I mean, the first thing when I noticed that the door on that hotel room, and it's the door, and it's just
it's in the first like town in the game.
Yeah, and it's just like this muddy. It's like the texture's not loaded yet, and I actually stood there for a second waiting for that texture to load. Yeah. And I actually, you know, this is where I say it does hinder it a little. I actually restarted the game and booted it back up because I was like, okay, that had to be a glitch.
Yeah.
Because there's literally, as if you, this looks like a PS2 texture on this door.
Yeah,
and
legitimately,
it's crazy, and the camera zooms right into it, and it's like, wow, okay.
Whenever your first big interactions with the outside world, so to speak, you zoom into your home door, and it looks like a PS2 door.
Yeah,
and it's very often.
The NPCs all look pretty goofy. They just look
like I said before. They look like Fallout 4 NPCs.
They do. They look like Fallout 4 NPCs, and their lip syncing is so bizarre. It looks like
their mouths go really big.
The talking orange. What was the talking orange? You know,
talking orange. Yes.
There's one side quest you do for this guy, and it's very early on, but he's just like, "Thanks a lot, man. That was really great." And I'm like, "What is happening with this lip syncing? Like so bad." But again, if the rest of the game didn't look so good, these things wouldn't stand out. That's why Fallout 4, it doesn't matter because that game doesn't look good.
Yeah, and Fallout 4, it's kind of like across the board bad.
It's like, okay, it's all bad.
But the main characters and the crew, like their lip syncing is for a Japanese game. Mm-hmm. It's fine. It's serviceable. It's not too like Yeah, that didn't look very good. But the NPCs, like, I don't know. That must have been the last thing they planned to work on, and they ran out of money, and they're like, well,
if you're coming off of like Death Stranding or an Uncharted game or something, and you're going into this, the lip syncing may come off a little weird, but it's because
lip syncing never bothers me too much in Japanese games because I honestly expect an amount of bad lip syncing. Because
it's just with this one, it's like the graphics are so good, you almost expect there to be motion capture.
Yeah,
but there wasn't. But it feels that way because the production values are so high.
Yeah, but, weird because like graphically, it is a AAA game with weird little like B-level things in there. It's like
yeah, it's a triple game where if I was playing something like Greedfall or like Vampire with a Y, I wouldn't be like
Vampire with a beautiful. The name of the game, right?
The game's actually pretty good.
It looks pretty cool.
It's
I need a new Legacy of Kain game. Okay. Anyway.
Play it. Anyways, play it on Switch.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, the graphics though, overall, I think we agree a net positive on graphics. They are, when they look good. Like, the best parts about them is when you are in a boss fight and the lighting, the visual flair of the particle effects.
Oh yeah, the boss fight. All right,
and you have barrier on you, and Tifa's got like her string
what is that called?
Move called the one Unbridled Strength.
Yeah, Unbridled Strength. There you go.
And you have all these things going on, and then you summon your summon, and they come down, and they're
all this is happening, and there's zero slowdown.
Zero slowdown, which is the best thing I can say about the graphics. Actually, this is what I would say.
That's the best thing.
The fact that I can have this is not a spoiler. The fact that I can have Ifrit and Cloud and Tifa and Barret all flying around, attacking at the same time. With
AAA particle effects flying everywhere.
A giant Ifrit-sized boss fighting me at the same time, and he's flipping out, and he's using moves and magic and shit, and it's like, what is happening? He probably has little babies coming off him. They're all running around, you know.
Little details. Details in the
animation. You're just like, damn. So yeah, and then the last thing I'll say, graphically, I do think some of the environments were a little sort of like.
See, this is where I disagree. When they were boring, maybe not boring is not the right word. When they're kind of stale looking, what else did you expect them to do? Look at where they are.
Yeah, I get it.
You know what I mean?
I think it's because they spend too. And then this is going to kind of bleed over into something else. So I'll stop after this. But it's because they spend too much time in certain areas that are boring, like certain railroads that just go on and go on forever, and you're like, come on. But no, that's a very minor quibble, and a lot of people will not have. I
don't know. Like maybe in certain parts that repeat, like the train route you're talking about, but like outside and all the sectors and all the connecting areas that go between sectors, like they can look kind of drab and brown, but I mean that's what it's supposed to look like.
That's what it always. I really am talking about. I'm more so talking about some of the big, just giant empty rooms and some of the like dungeons and level design that feel very PS2, PS3 era, which is funny because this is a fucking remake of a Final Fantasy game, but so it's like, what do you really want, guy? But I will say the art direction is also still really
it's well stellar, especially like the creature design,
and
absolutely
the characters.
Cool. Like this isn't a spoiler because it's Final Fantasy 7. Some things it's impossible to spoil. But the like the flying centipede robot boss, the amount of detail on that thing's face.
Mm-hmm. I kind of hated that fight though. The second version, the second part. But when
he flew out,
yeah.
Just the detail on these old enemies that you remember from 1997. You see them up close.
Yeah, in 97, he's just one character going like this.
Frick, dude.
And he's just
going to see its little.
And now it's like a whole like room boss fight.
Absolutely.
I also will say again, this isn't spoilers because it's like you said, it's Final Fantasy 7. So Red 13. Red 13's design is my favorite design.
Oh yeah, I love how he looks slightly gaunt. Like he looks slightly gaunt. Like he looks like he's been in a lab for a while. You know,
he has the best. I mean, he just looks so good. He looks so like everything I've ever wanted him to look like. He has that like, he's got that like hippie, little bit of hippie, that like edginess. He's got that like, I don't know. He's just like,
and his attitude is pretty spot on.
And his voice actor, which let's segue into the.
Oh no, I got more to say.
No, I'm the only one who gets to speak.
You were the arbiter.
Yeah. What do you want to add to the graphics?
Well, graphics for me includes presentation. So, for instance, I mean, this has already been talked about since one of the early trailers, but seeing your materia in your gear never gets old.
Oh no, never
gets old, especially in cutscenes where you see their bangles up close, and you can be like, oh, I know what those are. I know what those materias are.
I know exactly.
Really,
I literally did a thing where I would reslot them to where they'd be symmetrical, because I'd be like, oh, the purple one's on the right. No, it's got to be in the middle.
Same. Totally.
I will say that the only problem I had with that is they chose to do that. It was awesome, and most of the way through the game, it sticks that way. But there's a couple of cutscenes where they just go back to Cloud's regular Buster, and I was like, what?
Really?
Yeah, there's like two. Is
it those pre-rendered ones? The pre-rendered cutscenes, probably.
I guess they have to be pre-rendered.
Because I know there's a pre-rendered cutscene at the very end. There's one at the very end, like the big pre-rendered cutscene at the end. I'm sure there's one like near the beginning too.
Yeah, there's the one you're talking about, and then there's one that's like before the end that I don't know. It must be pre-rendered, because
it has to be.
If it was in the engine, then it would have. But
it's
hard to tell because it all looks so good that it's hard to tell.
It really does. We've gotten to that point.
But it did take me out of it a little bit when I finally saw Cloud's Buster, and I was like, I haven't used the damn Buster sword since the beginning of the game. What's going on? But who cares? Presentation.
This is Namura we're talking about. So the cinematography. Say what you want about the guy's storytelling techniques. The cinematography is stellar. Like it looks like. It looks like a blockbuster action movie at times. It's just like, it looks great.
Some of the cinematography actually reminds me, in this one specifically, I think Nomura did take some cues from Kojima, because there's a lot of cuts in this one that really remind me of Metal Gear, where there was a lot of like really cool, like quick zoom in to a character's face or whatever. Just a lot of like these cuts that really reminded me of
very
especially Metal Gear 5, like or V, or whatever you want to call it.
It's V.
It's V because of the guy's name.
Well, I have another theory why it's called V, but that's a different story.
That's a whole nother hour.
That's a whole nother show.
But the presentation was really well done.
Yeah, and the menus.
Oh man, the way the characters look on the menus.
The menus, profile. Like they were classic because they took the same like bones of the original menu, which was already like, I mean, come on, it almost doesn't get as simplistically like just boom. That's all you need right there. Boom. But like, I loved being able to well, first like, man, what was it you could do? You could I think it's some more gameplay. Never mind. We can go over that gameplay. It's just a great looking game. I loved looking up while in the sectors and seeing the plates. Like
that's one thing.
Really changed like the whole feeling of being in Midgar.
It did add a lot to it, because before it was you were like
you're from above.
You're
like, what? I'm below. What am I below? I don't see anything.
You never had much perspective, except for when you were doing some of those bombing runs, and the camera were really, really tiny. Those were cool, but in this one, the perspective is really cool, getting to see that. But I will say that also brings up an issue, which is the backgrounds are basically just a freaking JPEG. I don't know why they're so blurry.
None of them really bothered me, except the one when you're climbing up the shiny rope of hope. And I was just like, I stopped for a second and was just like, why?
And then there's a part even where there's the part where Barrett is like, take in the view.
Take in the view, man.
It looks like shit, man. And
no,
I
Barrett,
think I have a theory for this because I actually ran into the same problem. I know this isn't everyone's favorite game of all time, but Bioshock Infinite,
really?
when that came out, it's one of my favorite games of all time. I think it's the best Bioshock. Anyways, at me. Whoa, yeah, I did it.
Robin Friend, Bioshock 1 is the best.
My son's name is Booker. I mean, come on.
Booker, because he's a baby.
Shut up. Talk about my baby.
I'll find you and I'll kill you.
So when we played that game on PS3 and Xbox 360, that game was essentially made for next gen.
Yeah.
But because that game came out the year before the PS4, the year of the 2013, right, was when GTA 5, Last of Us, and Infinite came out, and a lot of those games were made with the intention of putting them in the next gen. And one thing I remember specifically in Infinite was like everything was so blurry when you got even remotely close to it. And this is a first-person shooter, so
you're supposed to get close.
All the text and that awesome art direction, the Art Deco kind of art direction that they have in Bioshock, it was blurry everywhere on the PS3, and I was like, what the hell? And then finally when I got it on PS4, the remastered version, which we obviously will get, that of Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Oh yeah.
Which I think this time around they're probably just going to make you pay for a patch or something like $20.
I hope so. Or maybe not even pay for it. Maybe not even pay for it. Maybe it'll just be
free.
An update.
Cyberpunk already said they wouldn't make you pay for it. But anyways,
that's a different story.
But I think that's my theory as to why certain things are very imbalanced in the graphics department. I think that when we play this on the PS5, we're gonna be like, oh my fucking issues. Holy shit! Like this looks
maybe not the NPCs. Maybe the NPCs will still look a little janky, but
high res jank.
At least the door will be fixed.
The mouth, the textures and the JPEG backgrounds will be fixed. So
thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. All right, on to sound music, voice.
The best part of this entire game, hands down, in my opinion.
The music.
Yeah, I know it's the soundtrack from another game, but I mean,
it's not though.
It's so much more than that.
It's really not.
I have been listening to this soundtrack. I got the deluxe version that came with the soundtrack.
It's a huge soundtrack.
It's
like
so big.
The OST is like the OST clocks in a little over 5 hours. That's the longest Final Fantasy soundtrack to date.
Yeah, it's like Persona 5 long. Like that shit's like it's like 100 or 120 songs or something.
Yeah, something ridiculous.
But not only the remixed versions of the orchestrated soundtrack, which I literally bought a new headset. I'm not even a headset guy, and I bought a new headset for this freaking game because I was so hyped playing with my little shitty headset. And
you're like,
I need some.
I'd
be hearing that, ding, 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 and I'm like, I need something better, bro. So I went out and I bought a big old bass boosty badass, and I was playing this whole game with just headphones on because when you're in a boss fight and you're flying around,
I played most of it with headphones. I had to.
I would actually tell almost everyone to play this with headphones because the soundtrack is so good that it would actually be detrimental to your experience.
And it's really not just that, like, the sound design in general is really great. Like,
you know what I love?
If you're going from one area to another, like when you dip under stuff and climb under, and there's someone in the other room you're going to that's still kind of far away, and they're talking, it will sound like they are in another room to the right talking. Like the sound design is. Yeah,
no, I agree. And when your party members were around you, like I remember, that part where you climb all the stairs, which is in Final Fantasy VII. I remember I had headphones on and I would hear Tifa, and it sounded like she was really high up and far away. And then Barrett's
on the bottom, like
he's like, the stairs talking to you guys.
Did you love how the music just got more and more distorted?
Oh yeah, it was great.
Like you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired. But there's trouble in paradise because I don't know about you, but the audio design was good, but the mixing was so bad. The mixing was so bad. I had to mess with the levels constantly because either the music was drowning out someone's speech or someone's speech was drowning out the music. So like I constantly had to like change up the levels in the settings.
I never had that problem.
Yeah.
Not once.
Yeah, I constantly had that problem.
And funny thing to say this, I've actually been playing 7 on Switch with the same headphones that I bought, and that one, the mixing is so ridiculously horrible for headphones.
Yeah. I'm sure it's all just flat.
Well, because the music, you're listening to the music and it's and then you pick up an attack and it's like boom, and it's like super fucking loud, and it's like Jesus, and you like go to attack and like the sound. Luckily, they added an option in this to move the sound effect volume down. So yeah, but it did to me. I personally would disagree there. I don't know. I had a very good experience with the mixing. I always could hear somebody
down there in the comment land. If you want to share your audio experience, because yeah, I constantly had to not constantly, maybe like 3 or 4 times through my playthrough, I had to be like, oh boy, I got to turn the music back up because now the vocals, especially with the NPC idle chatter, like when you're walking through the sectors, sometimes those bitches would be so loud. I'm just like, I cannot hear the main characters, the people I care about, talking right now because these people around me are just having idle chatter about. I'm just like, shut up. Shut up.
I do know what you mean. They're like, the other day I was down at the bar. Blah, blah,
I'm like,
blah.
dude. I mean, I like the immersion.
I
think it's really cool.
For me, that would only happen when I would walk really close to them.
Really?
I never had that issue.
Hey, yeah, I don't know what's up.
I was just like, dude, it was like in real life when I'd be like trying to talk to my friend and we're walking down like a street and some dude's like, get your cotton candies, and he's yelling. Like, I'm trying to talk to my buddy.
That'd be great if you could do that. She's like, dude, shut up.
But yeah, so sound on my end is 10 out of 10.
Voice work.
It's good.
It's serviceable. I didn't hate any of the main characters.
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
I thought the guy who they got for Cloud was actually I like Tim more than like Advent Children and all, like whoever that guy is, Steve Burton, I think his name is.
Mm-hmm.
I like this guy a lot more. He has more of like a believable. I don't know. He has more like I don't know.
I'm Cloud. He has more of a flat.
Steve Burton, if that's his name, he had more of like a. Oh, I'm Cloud.
He was more emo there, in this one he's a lot more just sort of like emotional. Because that's what he's supposed to be.
Because in the original, I mean, Cloud starts off as really cold, just like in this remake. He starts off real cold, and he warms up, and then like he's just like a normal guy who jokes around sometimes. And like, I think if they got Steve Burton, I don't think they would have captured because he's just so one note.
Mm-hmm. And this was similar, and that is sort of kind of how he's supposed to be. But yeah, he's like Cloud is similar to Geralt in The Witcher, whereas he's not. He's supposed to have his emotions taken away or balanced by his mutation, but he's still supposed to be have a little bit more than the standard soldier or Witcher type.
And character. I mean, the only really reason why Cloud begins so emotionless is, I don't have to stop this. This isn't a spoiler. You've all played this 22-year-old game. I mean, he just got done recovering from Mako poisoning, and he thinks he's someone else. He's really confused, so he's going to be really monotone and boring and sad. But he warms up eventually.
Oh yeah, I mean that's how Cloud is, and let's see in 2029 when we get to play the last game in the series, we'll get to see his triumphant character arc.
Honestly, that's what's really cool. Okay, well we'll talk about it when we get the story. The OST, not only I noticed more like constantly, like it wasn't just like rearrangements, but they would like throw in multiple motifs within the same piece.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I just loved hearing like, oh, that's Tifa's motif. Oh my gosh. Oh, that's the live stream. Oh, like you hearing all this stuff, and like in the same arrangement, you're hearing multiple motifs, and it just made me very happy because they could have just done like regurgitation. Here's this theme we're just gonna redo.
I think at the end of the day, my favorite voice actor in the whole game was Red 13, and my second was Barrett.
I loved Barrett.
Barrett at first seemed to come off almost like a caricature.
But that's I feel like that
for one that
like
is kind
Cloud.
of
with Cloud, that's kind of the point. Barrett's supposed to come off first as this.
Cloud's supposed to be a hot topic, a white guy, hot topic dude,
and Barrett's supposed to just be this angry
kind of a
guy.
Mr. T, angry kind of.
Yeah, he's just supposed to be just this guy who just will do anything to get revenge. Basically, I mean that's his whole story arc. He starts off as this angry man who wants revenge, and then slowly he warms up.
And Barrett to me had the best. I think the best evolution in his voice acting. Yeah. Whereas at the beginning, he does come off a little harsh when you're playing the demo, and you're like, "Yeah, he's a little much."
He's a little mean.
he's a little much, but then by the end of this game, he's so. Every part of his dialogue is so like I hung on every word he was saying, and then by the end of it, he's. Like whether it's like starting to warm up to Cloud or whatever, it was so endearing listening to him speak, and he's such an emotion filled character.
Yeah,
and he acts on pure raw emotion.
Yeah,
and
pure
he's so entertaining.
Emotion. Yeah, I think that's why like Cloud and Barrett are such a good team because one operates on pure reactive instinct and emotion, and then Cloud he's stoic. He's just like. Cool, collected.
There's one
Very
line. Cool. It's nebulous where it is in the game, but there's a part where obviously they warm up to each other because it's Final Fantasy and we all know what the fuck happens. But like, there's just a part where they're just sort of running around. You're not like doing a story mission or anything and he just says, he's like, you know what? We make a pretty good team. And then Cloud goes, yeah. And then he goes, I never thought I'd ever say that shit. And it was just them running around together, and it wasn't a cutscene or anything. And I was like, damn, that was a really good moment. Like that was just a really well delivered moment.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like the main character idle chatter, like while you're walking and stuff, it's always relevant. It's always it always provides characterization or like setting, world building, and it never repeats, which made me very happy because the last thing I hate when you're playing a game and like the idle PC chatter just repeats
over and over. Yeah,
I hate that.
Especially while fighting. I was a bear. I mean, it's like in Bethesda games, it's like a joke right now.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good. Anything else to add onto the sound, music, voice?
I mean, this isn't really a spoiler, but Scarlet has a vocal theme song, and I hate it. That's all I need. That's all I want to say.
Oh, I will say
I don't know why she has a theme song.
I hate Johnny.
I like Johnny. I like Johnny, bro.
He's supposed to. You're supposed to hate him, but I was Cloud. Every time he was there, I was Cloud.
Don't call me bro.
Don't call me bro. That's one of my favorite Cloud lines too in that game. Is don't call me bro. Can I call you bro? No.
Yeah, don't call me bro. Or what does he say? He's like, yeah, I know. I pull it off next. What does he say?
I hate Johnny so much. But that's why he's there. So you can't hate a design that's there for.
That's when he's there. You don't have to like it, but it's faithful to the character. Good old Johnny. No, that's. Oh yeah, the music discs.
Oh
I wish there was a way to listen to them without going to a loud bar.
Yep.
Why can't I listen to them in the main menu, where it's
quiet? You sounded like an old man when you just said that.
I can't
have to go to some loud bar.
That's not even an old man. That was me like 10 years ago. Why do I have to go to a loud bar?
No, I agree. I can't believe they didn't have some sort of. What would have been so cool in that game is if at some point there was a little quest where you could pick up a Walkman or a Discman or something, and you could keep it, and then from there, like kind of like a Metal Gear, right? Metal Gear 5 or whatever. You could just like listen to that shit wherever you wanted. That would have been so cool. But I don't know. They probably have their reasons.
Yeah, but, maybe they'll DLC it or patch it or something.
One last thing I did want to add is, so not only are the orchestrated tracks so amazing, but the ones that surprised me the most were these weird the weird versions of songs, like the jazzy ones,
Yes.
or like where they technoed up at some shit, like the and I was like, this is so cool, and they're using it as battle music.
Yeah.
Like, yes.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. It's
I can't remember
the highway to Wall Market.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the highway to Wall Market. Yeah, I loved that part because another thing I noticed they would have the it wasn't always consistent, but when it happened, I always noticed it. It made me happy. Like they had the area or dungeon theme, and then when you get into a battle, it would seamlessly go into a battle version of that area's theme song.
There was a lot.
It didn't happen all the time, but when it did it, I was like, I love when games do that.
There was one battle. There was a lot of like it didn't just do the safe thing where it would play the boss theme, where it would play the battle theme, and sometimes I just wanted it to because I was like, how many damn tracks are there? And there was one in particular where you're fighting a boss in the train graveyard, and I thought that there was a song that played, and I don't think it's in the original, and it was really well done. It was fucking awesome. And I can't remember. It's the can't talk about it without spoiling anything. But yeah, it's the first boss fight in the train graveyard. Yeah. And it was a really cool song.
Fantastic. The Genova theme song that you. Fantastic.
Yeah,
just amazing.
Man. And it makes me realize,
you can just gush 20 minutes about the music, honestly.
It just makes me realize how much it solidifies. This is my favorite soundtrack of all time.
I'll have to listen to the soundtrack standalone.
Yeah, but
it's 5 hours long.
I think 7 is my favorite soundtrack of all time. I think it has so many amazing songs. I can't wait to hear Cosmo Canyon.
Oh, I know.
I'm gonna pee my poop.
Yeah, I know.
Pee on my poop. All right, I guess we're spending a little too much time on the sound.
Gameplay.
What's next, Meatball? And a little bit about the story.
A little bit. Actually, yeah, just a little bit. There's a lot to talk about gameplay.
We'll go into the story more like on the spoiler side of
things. We'll touch on the story a little bit just to describe it, but
you play as Cloud. You come into town. You're a merc, and you're helping out a terrorist cell called Avalanche. You're trying to save this. You're trying to destroy these reactors that this evil company Shinra has put to bleed the earth with the Makos, and you get caught up in a resistance group, and then you end up caring for them because they're so endearing.
Because they're your friends now.
And you find the last of the ancients.
Where is she?
Wait. Is there more?
I'm
it's another.
Okay.
So yeah, gameplay though. How did the game play?
So fun. I mean, combat wise, if we're looking at just combat, just fantastic. I couldn't wait to get into another fight.
If the best part about this game is the soundtrack, then the second best part about this game is the combat.
That's so fun.
The moment to moment actual combat is maybe one of the best combat systems they've ever had in a Square Enix game.
It's the best action RPG combat I've played. No, for me it is because it was like a further evolution of the ATB because it was live action. It was live, just like ATB.
It was Kingdom Hearts mixed with Final Fantasy 15 mixed with 7. And it had this really good amalgam of the three.
I just liked the ATB bar because it added a degree of it was live action and it was action, but you still had to be tactical. You still had to think 2 or 3 turns ahead. You know what I mean? You couldn't just press square. You know. You had to be okay, should I use this bar of ATB right now, or should I save this ATB? Let's describe the battle system for people who.
Yeah,
we're just jumping into it. So it's an action RPG, obviously. So it's a lot like Kingdom Hearts, and it has an AT bar just like Final Fantasy VII, but the ATB bar doesn't automatically charge with time like Final Fantasy VII. It charges with action. So when you attack someone, or you guard, or you parry, the ATB bar, there's 2 sections, doot, doot, and you can use those bars to do abilities or magic spell, which still costs MP, or use an item.
Throw a grenade at a guy.
Oh, a freaking grenade at a guy!
That's how I actually beat.
I
the
love
last
grenades.
Boss. The last boss of the game, I actually beat with a grenade.
Dude, and that's funny because every time I play Final Fantasy VII, the original, in the Midgar section, I always stuck up on grenades because they are OP, dude. Like, honestly, really the original game, like, you could just.
I realized I really didn't use them because I kept forgetting about them, and I had
I forgot about them in the game.
I had so many explosives in my inventory. I was like, why did I never fucking use this thing? And so the last boss, I was drained of like everything, and I was like, I don't have anything. I have no MP left, and I'm like, oh yeah, I have a grenade. And I was just like, wow. It was like Die Hard. I don't know if they should throw a grenade in that movie at all. They dropped out.
So yeah, I like that the ATB system is intact in this action RPG system, because I still have to think, just like in the original Final Fantasy, I have to think about resource management and thinking a few turns ahead. Because
a few turns in the head.
A few turns in the head, you know what I'm saying? I feel like it. Because in most action RPGs, you just kind of like, most of the times you're just going by the seat of your pants, and you're not really thinking about, especially you're not really thinking about team management and how you can synthesize everyone's abilities to work with each other, and swapping. Yeah, you can swap members of the party now. You can just go. It's
so to me, this I was trying to describe this to a person the other day who had played Kingdom Hearts. I said, okay, you play Kingdom Hearts? They're like, yeah. I said, so if in Kingdom Hearts at any point in time, you can not only hit a button to slow down everything to a like extreme crawl, like VATS level, like Fallout VATS level crawl, where everything's going so slow, but it's still moving, so it looks cool as fuck.
And it doesn't just but that gives you like incentive to keep going fast too.
Right. And so I was like, think of if Kingdom Hearts, you could slow down time and actually pick your stuff, which I would love that in Kingdom Hearts, because I feel like it's one of my problems with Kingdom Hearts is like I can never use my items or my spells very effectively, because unless they're mapped to a fast thing, because I can never really like slow down anything.
But Final Fantasy VII-R has so many more strategic options and ability options that you need to have that.
That's what I'm saying. It's like think of Kingdom Hearts, but you can switch to Goofy or Donald at any point in time. You know what I mean?
I would play as Goofy all the time.
Just
keep him away from rocks.
But it's Kingdom Hearts, but if you were able to switch between all your party members and slow down time to a crawl at any point and strategically think out the game, it is masterfully well done.
I can't totally agree with that, but you
could totally agree with it, but you're choosing.
I could, but I'm not, because it's almost like you're going to compare it to Kingdom Hearts by default, because like what else are you going to compare it to?
Mind memory double plus.
But I see what you mean. It is, to me, it is.
You compared it to Kingdom Hearts before I did, son.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's nothing else to compare it to, so it's like, it's much better. Much better. It's much better than Kingdom Hearts gameplay-wise. I like this a lot more. It's much more strategic-minded.
It's also the combat is much more punchy. Also, here's a really
it's
cool
not
thing.
Floaty, punchy. Yeah.
Here's what's really cool is when you hit the square button, which most sane developers will use as the attack button.
Mm-hmm.
That's the button that you attack with.
Weird,
as
right?
in Kingdom Hearts, you press circle because they're insane and they hate love.
That's weird, because for the longest time, in PlayStation development, circle was accept,
confirm, yeah,
and the cross was cancel, the up was jump because it was pointing up,
or menu,
and square was always like an activate, like a activate.
I don't know why they kept that control scheme in Kingdom Hearts, but yeah, luckily they changed it to a sane way. Except for, I'm not the biggest fan that X is the button you hit to go to your menu. It took me a while to adjust to that. I kind of wish that would have been like L1 or something. Yeah, you press X to go into your menu in the battle sequences. And that feels a little strange. I'm surprised again. I'm very, very confused as to why there's not a jump button in this game.
Thank you. That was one of my why.
Kingdom Hearts have a jump button in this game is
well, the worst
same...
part is there's plenty of aerial opponents.
Tons.
Why?
Tons.
I want to be able to jump and
you don't
and
always have Barrett on your damn team.
I know.
Or Aries.
Yeah. Yes.
I can't believe that X wasn't just jump, and that they didn't have the menu button just tied to like L1 or something. You know?
Yeah.
I that's such a weird design choice. Yeah. So to make it clear for everybody, when there's an aerial enemy, you just have to hit the attack button and
just hope
that Cloud will fly up into the air, or Tifa, and start attacking.
But don't hold down the attack button when you do it, because
then you'll do the area attack.
Because then you will just hit them once and fall back down. No, you got to tap.
And the other thing,
it's just a mess.
So you can't use like any abilities while you're in air. You know,
yeah.
You have Cloud has an ability, the thrust ability, where he like fly across the battlefield.
Yeah, why can't I jump? Use that and
you can't do anything. So like when there's an aerial enemy and you're a melee character, you pretty much just sit there and use spells, and you only attack them to like build your.
And if you're playing on hard mode, you're not going to be wanting to use any of your spells.
No,
not at all. Use that for healing.
So we started with the good part of
camera. The camera sucks. Sucks butt.
I'm not one to complain about the camera in games. That I know most people, almost like it was like a review thing, like in the early 2000s. Early 2000s, it was like every review was like camera sucks. And it was like Mario 10 out of 10. Camera's terrible. But this one really, the camera is bad. It's not very good.
Luckily it's only really bad in like enclosed areas, which unfortunately happens quite often. But it only really made me mad like maybe 2 or 3 times, where I was just like, what the hell, Square Enix? Why are you making this? And mapping the targeting to switch targets to the camera analog stick. Who thought that was a good idea?
Idiots.
Like, you're surrounded by 6 enemies. You're locked on the one. You're in a corner. You try to turn the camera. No, not going to happen. You got to unlock the camera and then turn it.
There's a lot of things about this game that are very jarring, because the things that are right about this game are the hardest things to get right, which is amazing music, amazing visuals for the most part, amazing characters, and amazing battle. Most games suffer from the lack of an amazing battle system, or the lack of compelling characters, or the lack of a good soundtrack. This has all of the things that I love in video games the most, which battle system, soundtrack, and characters. It's like those are the 3 best things in this game. So I think it's crazy that they have missed a few things like that, like small obvious things that are like, what the hell were you thinking? And that's sort of like, I don't know if you had any more to say about combat. I was going to move on to
I do.
The non-combat scenarios. Which is
the materia system. What did you think about the materia system?
Oh, I loved it.
Me too. It was almost 1-to-1.
It was like the most unchanged thing about that whole game. I feel like
I was kind of worried too, and I'm like, how are they going to implement this? How? Yeah. But then I remembered like Crisis Core, and it was an action RPG that uses materia system. It's a little different in Crisis Core, but it was pretty much 1-to-1.
They say in games, a lot of games, or a lot of just when they're reviewing something or critiquing something, they say, 1 step forward, 2 steps back, or whatever.
Yeah.
For me, this game is 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Yeah.
That's how all in all
it's a net positive.
It is a net positive, but it is a lot of it. The design choices some of them are so baffling and strange, especially early on in the game. There is some crazy. Obviously, there's going to be padding in this game. Of course, there is. There's going to be padding because they stretched out a
5-hour game to a 40-hour game.
Yeah, they stretch out 4 or 5 hours to 45 hours or 35 hours.
They should be commended for that, honestly, because they somehow did it.
And see, this is the thing. On my notes, I have in the cons and the pros, padding.
It's like grinding. Because, like grinding can be good and bad.
And then that was one of my cons was, for an RPG, it was very hard to find a place to grind in this game. And I really love, not everyone's going to care about that because some people just don't give a shit. But I love to be overpowered, and this game does flow well, and that's not a knock on the game's difficulty. The difficulty
you can grind in the Colosseums.
Sorta, yeah, you can. I wish there was areas where enemies would respawn a little more often. They seem to you go through an area and they're gone, and you have to go all the way back to the very beginning for them to
you just old school, and you want that grindy grind, bro.
Oh man, I'm playing the original Final Fantasy 7 on Switch right now. I'm just cruising around grinding outside of.
Dude, grinding for limit breaks in that game is super fun.
I like grinding a lot. That's why I love.
I like grinding. See, I don't call it grinding. Grinding is when you don't like it. Leveling is when you like it.
Oh, is it?
I like to make a distinction because grinding is when you're forced to do it and you don't want to do it, and that's not fun.
Okay, yeah.
Leveling, if you're leveling on purpose, 7 is my favorite game to level on purpose because it's the combat system. Even in the original probably has my favorite turn-based battle system. It's super fast. It's super fluid. The materia system, everything synthesizes really well, and I love leveling in that game. Sometimes, I'll just be before I get out of Midgar, I'm I'm gonna get all the limit breaks, and I'll just find a good spot and just crank out all the limit breaks.
Yeah, no, and man, I realized too that there's 2 specific types of a special materia that I got neither of, and you cannot find them anywhere else in that game. Dang. And they are a blue materia. I won't say what they are, but. You find one really early on that is very obvious. They're like, "Do you want to go back and find it?" And I'm like, "No, just let's go." Because here's another.
I know what you're talking.
One of my main cons is just the general overall, and so my biggest problem. So combat is one of the if not the best part about this game, up there with the soundtrack. So the other part of the gameplay, which is walking around, is not that fun. It's just very tedious and strange how the level design is put together. There are so many ladders and things to duck under and things to shimmy between.
For me,
and I understand that it's probably the game loading. It's probably hiding a loading screen, but it doesn't.
Maybe
for me, it doesn't fool me. It just makes me go, "Damn it! Just load." If you gotta load, I don't. There's just some times where I'm shimmying through stuff, and
the worst part is when there's so much shimmying in this freaking game.
They should have just called this Final Fantasy 7 shimmy.
Oh my gosh! Going through stuff is when okay, here's Cloud. Okay, this is how thick Cloud is. Here's the wall behind him.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the space,
the other wall,
and he shimmies.
Yeah.
Even though you can fit 4 clouds in there.
And then you'll get to a point where you're already out of the shimmy, and he's still shimmying, and there's a ton of space in front of him. And
it's super weird. And I was complaining about this earlier to myself, just out loud.
I like a crazy person. I love to think that you're just in a room by yourself.
Dude, I was on the edge of the bed going.
You're like George.
Why? Yeah. Why? Why in modern video games does this happen? You're walking. Okay, a story event happens, and you have to follow someone while they talk. Why do I have to press the analog stick up for 3 minutes just to hear someone idly talk? Why are you making me do this? Automate it. Automate. Make the character just walk.
Yeah, so I can at least set the controller down and take a drink of something, but it's like they want you to be immersed in the first game.
That's not immersion.
It's never been immersion. There's 2 games that I remember started that trend, and it was Gears of War and Uncharted.
We're still feeling the effects of those 2 games.
But the thing is Uncharted Uncharted did it a lot smoother.
Yes.
And there weren't as many of these. There were a lot of the shimmies and the things, but they were a little more creative with it.
Yes,
whereas with 7 Remake,
they're prolific.
Always you ducking under something, or you shimming, or you climbing a ladder. I mean, it's the same 3 fucking things over and over again. And there's some level design in that game, and to me, the most egregious offender of this was the second dungeon, aka the second bombing run. I think that whole like dungeon design, even the part that you said you liked with the lamps, I think that whole dungeon was designed
conceptually. I liked it conceptually.
I think it was just very slow. And then there's the other thing where you're balancing on the thing, and you're just balancing and you're walking so slow, and you're like, I'm a guy who can like do backflips off of stuff and like land, but then I can't climb a ladder fast.
Yeah, like a bridge can be falling, and I could jump off the falling pieces of the bridge and do a flip and land on the other side. Yet I have to slowly climb up this ladder, and oh my gosh, this 4 feet little hole in the wall, I have to slowly shimmy across.
Well, and coming off of what was it, Persona 5, where there's like these parts where there's these laser beams, and you can press a button to go underneath them. You can actually hold X as you're running, and he'll just automatically like jump over them or slide under them. And it's like, that should be how Cloud works.
Yeah.
Why does Cloud not work this way? Like, he is a quick, badass, fast character. And
there is a disconnection.
Hold on.
There's a disconnection between like the exploration and the combat. There is a weird disconnection between the two.
Yeah, and so, like you said, when you get to a combat scenario, I'm always like, where is the next combat scenario? And sometimes it's like, it's not long enough. I'm like, early on. And later in the game, this all gets alleviated a little more because the combat scenarios start lasting longer.
Yeah.
That exploration is a little more few and far between, where you have to do the squeeze. But that every time, like you said, every time there's something awesome, there's also that like, follow this guy and listen to him talk and squeeze through a bunch of shit and just like and duck under the thing. And it's like there's like this huge fucking gap in a wall, and Cloud's like,
it's a better shimmy again. My dude. Barrett, I get. He's a wide MFer, but
come
Cloud,
on,
dude.
I mean, to me, it just, I don't understand. I would love to see I'd love to see a documentary on the making of this game, and why they made certain design decisions, because this game's on 2 discs, and the only other game that's ever been on 2 discs was Red Dead 2. Yeah. And that game is huge open world and is beautiful. Every inch of that game textures are popping beautifully and everything looks amazing. And that game's also like 75 hours long. And that's just if you gun it. That game's Witcher level. That game is Witcher's long length. This game is not a long game for an RPG, and is linear and has very few little open parts at all. And I'm very surprised. I mean, yes, the presentation is absolutely stunning and amazing, and there's so much in this game that is great. I'm just so confused as to why this is on 2 discs when the content we have is very like, okay. But like I was expecting like almost like a GTA Midgar or something.
Yeah, that's kind of what I expected too. Not that I don't like what I got in terms of like the linearity. I actually rather would have it linear than open, because we've already talked about this. Open world lends itself to too many mistakes. Like it's too easy to it's easier to mess up an open world pacing experience than it is to just forego that and just have a nicely paced linear experience.
Yeah, my favorite type of game is emergent gameplay, like Knights of the Old Republic, Chrono Trigger, those kinds of games, Mass Effect, where it's not open world, Deus Ex, where you're in these.
But narrative-wise, it is
open environments. Where you have these like different decisions. I do wish they would have almost added more to this.
But just funny when you take into like the account of what they end up doing with the story at the end, it's like, I should have been able to make more choices.
Yeah, wait. Yeah, what the fuck?
That was the whole point of this game. We'll get into that later.
Yeah. But yeah, so anyways, I just have a lot of and that really comes to, I mean, it's pacing. In general, this game has a huge pacing issue.
See, I don't
and it gets better later.
I don't feel like it had a pacing issue though. Like I agree with you on all your points. Like with the exploration being like just incredibly mashed potatoes. That's the only thing that came to my mind. Just walking through mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I never reached a point where I got irritated to the point of like, this is affecting like the way I see the game's pacing as a whole.
I think you had a different experience than me because I only get to play about 2 hours a night, right?
No, I played about 2-3 hours a night.
There was a while there where you got pretty close to where I was, and I was.
That's because I'm much better at video games than you.
Probably, I mean that's true.
I don't know, probably not. At least in Metal Gear, that's pretty much the only game. Guarantee
you beat this game in 30-something hours, because I guarantee the reason I died. I mean, I died more than I thought I would, but that's more towards the latter half of the game.
Yeah, the latter half of the game got harder.
There's some parts that like, and I'm okay. I mean, that's actually kind of a compliment. There's some parts that just like wreck you, and you're like, because you think.
What level did you end on? I love it ended on 33.
38?
How did I beat the game? I don't know.
I don't know. I found some areas to there was the other, so another part that I'll kind of call out as like a weird pacing / moving around thing is the part where you control the robotic arm.
Yeah, if the arms moved faster, I would have been totally fine with that.
It's just the animations, the bespoke animations are so just like, it's like, and it's like, Eric, get on, and she's like, okay.
If you make a mistake, you have to like, because there's one part where you have to like move the boxes around a certain way, and I had messed up, so I had to like rearrange everything back, and I'm like, why am I have to do this?
Why am I have to do this? And it's like, this is a game where, you know, the most badass parts of this game are the incredible thumping, amazing soundtrack and the lightning fast, amazing combat system. Yeah. And so like 1 minute you're flying around this battlefield, you're like, oh, God, you know, and it feels like this feels like 7 in your mind when you were a kid. And you're Cloud, and you're jumping, and you're doing Braver. And right when you activate Braver, you switch to Tifa, and then she does an uppercut, boom, and she's in the air.
And blow.
Cloud's in the middle of Braver. She's in the middle of an uppercut, and then you switch to fucking Barrett, and he does focus shot. He's like, ah, and then the enemy's just like covered in damage and no slowdown, nothing. And it's super smooth, slick presentation, and it's crazy to me that is in the same game as this game where I'm ducking and shimmying,
the shimmy
and
slow
controlling a goddamn little slow arm. It's like, oh, it's a crane machine simulator. They should have just put a crane game in here. You know, they should have been one at the bar, because they already made the robot arm like a thing. It's just give me a crane game. Darts was fun though.
I didn't mind most of the mini games. I liked them. They were fun little diversions.
The weightlifting shit or the squats. I mean,
the squatting and the.
Someone online was like, "God, that squat mini game is like the worst mini game I've ever played," and I was like, "It's like the exact same as the original. It's literally the same game. It's the same. It's like you just press. You literally press circle.
I think they added another button, so they made it like it used to be 3 buttons, but now it's 4.
I thought it was 3. I thought it was only.
Oh, I'm thinking about the chin-ups. Chin-ups are 4.
Oh yeah. The squats is like the same fucking game.
3. Yeah.
So it's really just a glorified Easter egg, man. Yeah. It's, you know, some people are like, it's terrible. I was like, it's not there for like it to be really fun.
It's not there to be like a gateway to continue the plot. It's just hey, you remember this?
The machine gun in Walmart in Walmart. The machine gun part.
Yeah.
Like, oh, they put that in here. That's so fucking cool.
Dude,
that was awesome.
One of my favorite things to do in the game, this goes back to graphics and presentation, would be like, I'd go somewhere and I'd just stop and I would just look at stuff, because the amount of detail is really impressive. Like, that's one thing I wish they had a first person mode, just to look around at stuff,
or a fucking photo mode, man. I was taking so many screenshots of this game.
Imagine all the great stuff you could do, like all the stuff you capture mid combat. Like,
Oh my God. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, and the fact that like
Death Stranding just got a photo mode, and it's amazing. It's an amazing photo mode.
what did?
Death Stranding.
Oh, they added one?
Yeah, and it's
I still
super
need to
cool.
go back.
You
I
can
still
make
need to
your
go
own
back to
like
Death
movie
Stranding.
posters and stuff and everything. It's great.
See, I wish they did that because they had so many amazing photo modes, and they always add them later.
Yeah, they'll
Most photo
probably.
modes are patched in, just because that's not a priority. They're trying to get the game out the door.
I get it.
They're like, this is not going to impact anyone's gameplay experience.
Yeah,
But
it's just a nice thing.
anyways, yeah, this whole thing, the gameplay, it's and I will say, the amazing combat outshines the subpar, walking around.
Absolutely outshines it. If the combat wasn't this good, I'd have a bigger problem with the exploration. But it definitely.
I'll say that Wall Market to me is the shining example of why this game is a net positive.
You enjoyed Wall Market a lot more than me. I mean, I didn't hate it, but like, it was fine. It was Wall Market. I don't know. You seem to have really loved Wall Market.
Well, I'm probably not the only one. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess
I'm in the minority here. That's fine.
They the way they handle things in that'll come. We'll talk more about that in the little part of the thing. Did you have
section?
Did you have any other?
How did you feel about the AI, like the ally AI, like when you weren't controlling them?
I don't understand why I wasn't given an option to control their behavior.
Give me a basic, cascading
focus on attack,
ability
focus
list.
On defense, focus on healing, focus on.
They had that in freaking Secret of Mana.
Yeah,
they had it in a game from 1992.
Dragon Age Inquisition has it. I mean,
of course, if my dream put in a minimal
Final Fantasy 12
Gambit. Yes, put in a minimal Gambit system, because I think every game should have some type of Gambit system where you make your own basic level cascading AI.
Yeah, 12
if this do that,
literally played itself. You could just like put the controller down and watch your minions kill everyone. And you're like,
people made fun of that, but you had to make that happen. You had to design the AI.
Yeah, it was just because it was a more strategic based. Final Fantasy doesn't make it bad. That game is such an underrated, underrated Final Fantasy.
But the AI, but I mean, I kind it did make me swap characters more often, which, okay, I mean that's nice that it was an incentive to make me micromanage more, but that should be an option. Like I should have the ability to be like, you know what, I feel like just playing as Tifa and just make everyone else's AI work the way I want, and then I could just focus on playing with Tifa. Instead of being like, oh, well, you're going to have to constantly trade characters because your AI won't do anything except basic attacks over and over. That's all they do.
Yeah, it's a really strange, another design decision.
Yeah.
That it's like one of those things where the combat is so fucking perfect.
Yeah.
And it's like there's this tiny thing over here where it's like just added a little tiny menu to like make my enemies my allies do something other than just fucking stand there. You're not even like they're not even building their fucking ATB gauge half the time. Like, I'm like, what are you
half the
doing?
Time they're just standing there, and the other time they're just doing regular attacks.
Sometimes I want to call a meeting with my allies. Sometimes after battles and like just be like, everyone gather around. Okay,
yeah, guys, rock
I'm
talk.
not mad.
I'm not mad at you. Just disappointed.
Okay, Tifa, you're just fucking standing there. What are you doing, man? I gave you all kinds of materia. You have fire materia. You have bio. You can poison people, and you're standing there like a jackass. But yeah. Anyways, it's not actually as bad as it sounds.
No, it's just when something is
this good. It's just something silly that should be in the game, and it's not.
Yeah, when something's this good, it's like when when it's so bright, it makes the little shadows even darker. You're just like, why?
That's why, and overall, this whole little generalized review that we're doing here, that's about to come to a close, because I think we've made a lot of arguments. But I think that to me, as a general thesis, is the general thesis is that, like I said, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Whereas there's so many things that are so brilliant and amazing and beautiful about this game. that the things that aren't are so strange and bizarre.
We haven't even gotten to the story stuff.
Yeah, and that is going to come at
I mean, do you want to say anything non-spoiler wise? Like, is there anything that you want to tell someone who hasn't played it about the story? Because it's a remake, but no, it's more of a reimagining.
It's a reimagining in certain parts, and other parts it is a direct remake.
And in some ways it's also a sequel. I'll get to that later. I have a theory.
So it is. Some of the writing is really, really good. I think on a baseline of the characters,
the characterization
is really well done.
Characterization is very, very well done.
The parts of the story that are in there from the original are good, and then some of the added stuff is actually really good too.
Oh yeah,
it adds
for me.
Some of that almost is stuff that I was like, "Where is more of this? I want more of that."
Yeah,
I want this thing I got over here. I got this over here, and I loved it. And you took it away from me, and you never brought it back, and then you
never brought it back.
Really fucking random to me, and I'm like,
yeah,
what? Where? Why? Like, give me the other thing that was so cool.
Yeah.
And then I will say that if you've never played this game is for you. Because
but also if you have played it, it's for you.
Well, that's the thing. This game will offend you more if you've played it before.
It has the potential. It has the potential to offend you more.
It
didn't really offend me. It just confounded me.
If you go in and you're just the person that's played action RPGs and you just think action RPGs are dope, or if you're a Kingdom Hearts fan and you've never played the original Final Fantasy,
oh yeah,
please God, go play this game. This game is made for you, and you won't care about the things that they added because you've never played the original.
Yeah.
So you're not going to give a shit. You're just going to be like, that game was dope.
Yeah.
So that's my message to you. This game is potentially better for people who've never played it than people who have played it. People who have played it will be completely split down the middle.
It's definitely a divisive game if there ever was one.
The fucking least.
If there ever was a modern example of division and a fan base.
I will say this.
Metal Gear Solid V, eat your heart out. This is going to be
this. I thought of Metal Gear 5 a lot while playing into this one, and I actually was like, I'm usually a guy that doesn't get too offended by endings or things that happen. I know a lot of people hated the ending of Mass Effect 3. They were like, "It's terrible."
I didn't mind it.
I didn't care that much. I was like, it was fine. I didn't think on it too much because it was like, those things are like the journey, and the ending is sort of like it's.
And plus,
okay.
I don't know. Well, that's a whole other conversation. I think the ending of 3 was kind of like the point of the whole.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah. So I think that was so overblown. So I'm usually someone when I see a review and they say, "Oh, the whole game was great, but the ending kind of sucked." Usually, I end up liking the ending.
Yeah.
And
I kind of like divisive games because that usually means they're being ballsy and they're taking risks.
That being said, and this is the last thing I'm going to say on my end about this before we conclude this part of the review, is that this ending definitely left me like, I don't know if I like that. I didn't hate it. I definitely didn't hate it.
I definitely didn't hate it.
I know I didn't hate it.
It's Nomura as heck.
Nomura as heck. It is very Nomura. And
it's one of the most like Nomura things I've seen since Dream Drop Distance. Like it's just like, hey, you like dreams you like Inception and the Time Machine? Well, have we got a story for you?
The planet inside of a time machine. What does that even mean?
Nomura.
So yeah. Anyways, so do you have anything more to add?
For me, I mean, if you've never, like you said, if you've never played Final Fantasy VII. See, do you remember when Final Fantasy 15 came out and you booted the game up and it said a Final Fantasy for longtime fans and newcomers? That was the first thing that popped up on the screen on Final Fantasy 15. I think that applies more to this remake. Because it's definitely for Final Fantasy 7 fans, the but they somehow did it so a newcomer could just not have to worry about baggage, not have to worry about. Do I have to play the original? Do I have to play Crisis Core? Do I have to play this? No. Just jump
You
in.
have more baggage if you are a returning fan than if.
Yeah, that's very true. Ironically, you have more baggage.
In a lot of ways, it's not a remake, as like you said, it's somewhat of a reimagining of certain things that happen. And we're about to move on to that. But if there's nothing more that you have to add, I just want to say thank you for watching the official first episode
for watching episode 1.
Critical Beard Podcast. This is your lucky day because you're getting 2 episodes dropping.
It's a twofer. Got a sweet twofer.
2 episodes dropping on the same day, both for only $4.99 a piece. Call right now and we'll put your order in. They're going fast.
I'm gonna put my PayPal up there. Just send it right to me. All right.
All right. Hey, thank you for listening. This has been the Critical Beard Podcast, episode 1, remakereboot.com, LOL. Thank you, Meatball. Thank you, Cardinal. See y'all next time. Peace out.
Peace.